Good afternoon, investigators. Mike Evans and Casey Pine with episode 286 of Spy Curious, the Friday afternoon weekly news for licensed investigators, government investigators, parole controllers and security vetters, loss adjusters, mercantile agents, and people studying the Advanced Diploma and Diploma of Government Investigations and Workplace Health and Safety. That's what we're here for. 286 times. And please, in the chat, people, welcome back Casey Pine, who we haven't seen for 2 weeks. G'day, Jack. Great to see you, mate. How's things in beautiful, sunny Tasmania? We hope it's all well down there, my friend. Casey, how are you?
Yeah, good. Very good. Been a very busy week, but oh well, as usual.
I've been chasing missing motor vehicles all week. G'day, Michelle. Great to see you.
Michelle?
Yeah, so I have been the control room officer for checking registrations to try and identify which missing motor vehicles in a massive big car park had their number plates changed. So,
Wow.
yeah, because the operative couldn't access the internet on their phone because with the 6 levels of concrete car park, there was no reception from levels 4 to level 1.
Yeah.
She'd have to hang out the side of the car park thing with the photo, and I had to check it for her. So it's been a fun week. It's been really good. Yeah,
That's cool.
So I've fulfilled my regulatory compliance as a teacher of investigations for the year by doing 3 investigations. I'm quite pleased about that. So anyway, today we're going to be discussing some interesting subjects. We're going to be looking at the subject of sock puppets. We've got some job vacancies, and we're going to update you on a very important issue around private investigators and domestic violence. And I'm also going to introduce you to some of the news of the week. Probably one of the biggest news articles to hit the headlines this week for all investigators, particularly desktop investigators, to be aware of and as part of their work, because you're now going to be investigating this on top of everything else in more depth. So the federal government has decided to outlaw doxing and impose up to 7 years jail for malicious sharing of personal data. So this has come out on the ABC website, and they explained there what they think the new legislation is going to be and what it's for, and it's very important. It's going to be a new criminal offence for the malicious release of personal data online, known as doxing. It will impose a maximum penalty of 7 years jail, so revenge porn, all that sort of stuff. So it's hate speech. The rules have changed dramatically now in relation to that issue, and its rampantness since 2007. They finally got round to it. So that's happened. EML this week have come out with a program down in Victoria. We were talking about post-traumatic stress disorder investigations in Investigations Uni earlier today in episode 97 of that. And EML have got a program running down in Victoria in relation to that. A lot of people attacked it online. G'day, Chantel. Great to see you. Hope things are well in northern New South Wales. Always great to know that you're watching, and thanks for letting us know. So EML this week have flagship that program on LinkedIn. Some people have rubbished it. Not unusual on social networking. They didn't dox it, but it's something to be aware of. And I'm pleased to see for the people involved in emergency services, there's some sort of support. You might have heard me in Investigations Uni today say that back in the day when the police went to a really bad accident and it was a traumatic experience for the whole team, they'd go back to the police station and they'd get a can of beer. If it was a really, really traumatic accident, multiple fatalities and children, that sort of thing, they go back to the police station and they get a carton of beer. That's how they dealt with it back in the old days. But now they're getting on the front foot and being proactive about it in relation to the past victims of it. And I'm sure that they're addressing it in much better ways with their systems, processes and procedures today. Casey, what do you got for us this week?
I have some interesting things, and I love that doxing has now got okay, I'm back. Thanks, Mike. I really like how doxing has strong penalties now. My son was doxed on an on an online game a couple of years ago, and it was very scary for him. Kids do this to each other sometimes when they're playing games, and I've seen a lot of doxing in video games, and it happens, and it's really, really scary for kids. And obviously we had the people were doxing kids from Jewish schools in Victoria, which has been horrible. It's a terrible, terrible thing to do. Some people go, oh, it's just your address going on the internet. You don't understand until you've been at the end of some kind of hate. And when you have people coming at you, it's like after I was on the news a couple of times last year, there are strangers on the internet that look up your social media and they find you and they will send you nasty, crazy things. Just absolutely blows your mind it blew my mind how much hate I got last year from random people saying that domestic violence isn't an issue, that protection of criminals is more important than the victims and things like that. And it just blows your mind. And so when you're at the end of that hate, the last thing you want is your address out there. And we all know the issues, the anti-Semitism that the Jewish people are facing at the moment, and that doxing that happened in Victoria is horrific. So I'm really happy to see that there are some really strong penalties now for that. I also wanted to talk about gosh, we have a lot going up here. Here we go. So there was an article in The Guardian, I think it was yesterday it came out, and it says why child killer John Edwards, who had a violent history, was able to hire a private investigator to spy on his family. Now, there's always a couple of these articles that come out every single year smashing private investigators for being a part of some kind of domestic violence issue, because we've got spouses that hire private investigators to essentially leverage them for stalking and harassment purposes. It's very, very rare to happen, but obviously it does happen, and it's definitely happening less and less as investigators don't do it. They're more careful about who they take jobs from. Australian Security Academy students are incredibly savvy. We speak about this in our Certificate 3 of Investigations, where people become licensed. We are looking at creating, within the next couple of weeks, a specific module around this, because in this article it's saying that nobody is teaching PIs not to do this, and that's completely untrue. We have never ever at the Australian Security Academy suggested that you go into spouse busting and just taking jobs willy-nilly from anywhere. We don't say, oh, put an ad on Gumtree and see how you go. That's not how we operate. But there are definitely schools out there that clearly don't put those kind of parameters down and don't say, probably don't do this. So, and of course, you always get rogue people in any industry. So at the Australian Security Academy, just to show our dedication to this and stopping domestic violence, we will be creating a very specific module about due diligence when it comes to taking private jobs. You learn this as a private investigator. As you go along, you learn to pick up cues, and sometimes people's stories change, and different things that you learn. Okay, no, this person is a bit of a red flag. Mike, you want to interject here?
No, keep going on when you're finished. You're right.
Okay. Yeah. So we are going to put down in our module a couple of things that you really should be looking out for, and just ways to get people to get in writing, like why they're hiring you, and picking up the phone and speaking to them, because it's happened to me a number of times where I'll receive an email saying, hi, Casey, I need this service. It's like, okay, I don't take jobs from people that I don't speak to. So I'll pick up the phone and give them a call. And I'll say, okay, so why do you need my service? And the story will change. And automatically you pick that up. You go, oh, okay, That's quite different from what you said in the email. Can you clarify why they're different? And just things like that you pick up on along the way, and you really just want to steer clear of anyone that is going to cause harm to another person. So in this article, this man hired a private investigator to stalk his wife, and in the article they're screaming about, oh, private investigators don't do due diligence, and that's not true. Well, we can't do a lot of due diligence. We can't see. We're not police officers, so we can't see if they have an AVO or a DVO out on them. That is a failure of government to extend that to us. That's not our fault, and there's no way I know. There's not a single investigator I know that would take a case from someone who has that. And also, we know ourselves to be really, really careful. And sometimes new investigators, they don't know this as much, so they might take these jobs. So you go, Mike.
Yeah, one of the big faults, Casey, of the civil investigation industry as a whole is it's not very good at communicating the good it actually does.
Yeah.
There is a total embarrassment and silence about the fact that we will not accept this, and they know they won't, and they don't. But the industry associations, the organisations, they communicated an induction. I'd say stay right out of it. If you really need this sort of thing, there'll be some dodgy bloke somewhere who'll do it. They can find them. You don't have to tell them where they are, right? So it's part of the movie persona and the TV persona that some people fantasize about. On our private investigator Facebook page, we would get 5 or 6 requests a week to locate an ex or an old friend or something like that. I just delete them straight away. I'm not even going to go there. People request someone to, look someone up on some kind of database. I just delete them. Not interested. I don't know who the person is. I don't want to be vicariously liable for introducing that person freely into where their ex is so they can go and get even with them. As a TAFE teacher, I've told you this before, in my classes over 35 years of teaching at TAFE, I've had 3 ladies who've had their identities changed and their children's identities changed, and they've been moved interstate by the police for their own welfare and safety because their husband's had a knock on the head at work or something like that. The switch is flipped and they're going to kill them. They're just hell-bent. They're going to kill them if they can find them. And they will use whatever means possible to find them, whether that's private investigators, whether it's databases, or some could even become private investigators hoping that they can access databases. And the number one thing that people don't go ahead with my course with it is they ask me straight out, can I get access to police databases or any database? And I just go, no, you can't. And I never hear from them again, and I'm quite happy about it because I don't want to know what that is. So forever and a day, before we even started teaching, as in a network of United Networked Investigators in Australia, who are our supporters, who you see commenting in our programs, none of them will stand up for this. In America, they've hired private investigators to locate celebrities, and that person taken that information, gone around and killed the celebrity. They have a fantasy about it and they've just got to do it. So it happens. We had a case several years ago where an ex-police officer in New South Wales asked another police officer to look up on a database where the person was, and that person, the information was supplied in exchange for something like $600, something like that. The next day, that person was shot dead on their doorstep with a bolt from a crossbow. Horrible way to go. Yeah, it's something that we've got to be constantly vigilant about within this industry. And look, as a whole, the industry does a great job. And anyone that gets involved with that, I'd love to tell you that all the people that commit frauds and do their inappropriate behaviour, all of them lose their jobs and stuff. A lot of them are just disciplined to keep their jobs in government and in corporations, and we investigate them. But anyone that does it as a licensed PI, they get out by the regulator eventually. It might take a while. It doesn't happen overnight. And all the licensed private investigators are very uncomfortable with having them there, extremely uncomfortable with that, right? But as a whole, the industry does not communicate its success with dealing with that. And seeing the younger generation coming through and addressing it, facing it head on, and creating awareness is good on your case. Well done. That's great. Yeah. So I'll leave you alone.
I'm just exceptionally passionate about this. I'm passionate about the investigation industry, and I'm very passionate about preventing domestic violence. And that's not like, we do desktop investigations and we have skip traces and things like that. So if you have an estranged aunt, your mother's passed away, there's an aunt you would like to reconnect with that side of the family, you can hire a private investigator to help make that connection. But at the same time, like, we have this whole, people have the idea about investigators, or we operate in the shadows, and that's just not true. We pride ourselves on our code of conduct and transparency. So if we locate that aunt, your first call is to the aunt to see if she would like to be contacted, to see if she would like that connection. The person that hires you doesn't get the say. It's the person that's looking to be found. If you find the aunt and you call her and say, hi, this person is looking to connect with you, and she goes, oh, absolutely not, like something terrible happened and I want absolutely nothing to do with them, that's the person that gets the say. And this is something that you have to be really clear and transparent about when you're doing these kinds of jobs. So yes, our code of conduct, our transparency, our professionalism as investigators needs to trump all of this kind of bullshit that we see in the news about investigators, because we are exceptionally well trained if you go to the Australian Security Academy and we are professionals and we're licensed, and it's not easy to get a license. So yeah, I'm very, very passionate about that. And I'm really looking forward to adding this part about domestic violence and due diligence, and having that transparency and putting it into our online training materials for our Cert 3 to help people understand that really thoroughly. And it's there. And so no one can point and say we're not training our investigators properly. It's definitely already there in our materials, but we will make a specific section about it. So it's like black and white, like can't miss it. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's one of the great things about the Australian Security Academy, is that we do believe in this industry. We love this industry, and we can help influence new investigators coming through to make sure that they are doing the right thing and don't get caught up in doing things like this.
So okay. I think, Casey, I haven't got our sock puppet question. So if you can just ad lib for a minute about what a sock puppet is, I'll put the question up when I find it. Okay. I've just deleted it.
So, Kelly has asked about sock puppets. She said she can't
Yep.
to make the faces look real. Are you going to put it up?
Yeah, I'm coming. Here it comes.
This is something I have spoken about. It is important that you do have a degree of reality when it comes to your sock puppets, because we need Facebook and Instagram and X and TikTok to agree that we are relatively a real person, and that's how we keep our sock puppet accounts alive. So I use "this person does not exist." And I've spoken about this quite a few times in the different investigations uni videos that we have. It has been my go-to for years. You're not going to go to something like DALL-E and say, can you produce an Australian looking photo? And you're not going to be James Bond either. As handsome as they are, it's just probably using other images is not a good idea. So this person does not exist. I just generated this image just before coming onto the show, and it looks incredibly real. This person,
Emma?
as the website suggests, does not exist. If you look at him, he looks like a guy that you would see walking past on the street. So this person does not exist is an AI program that has existed for a very long time, and it takes a compilation of over 1,000 photos and creates this face. So this is the first and the last time you will ever see this face. So this person does not exist. If you just Google that, it'll come straight up. So over the years, yeah, it used to be a little bit dodgy, but now you get incredible photos like this. And all you do is refresh the screen when you're on the website and it'll generate a brand new face for you. So if you're looking for someone of a specific ethnicity, sex, or age, then you just have to keep refreshing until you get that. So it generates children, teenagers, not that don't use children, don't use images of children, but it generates all of that unless you're looking to really beef out your sock puppet for whatever reason. And it's a mom and it's like, oh, this is my child. Still a really good option is this person does not exist. So you don't generally have to go that far, but depending on what the case is and whether you need to get into certain mums groups or whatever to monitor behavior there, then you can use it. But yeah, this is an incredible picture. Looks like a real dude. This person does not exist. Highly recommend. Oh, you're on mute, Mike.
Sorry, you shouldn't have used Kelly's name there because we want to keep Kelly anonymous.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
So you shouldn't have said it was Kelly's question when you put Kelly's question up there, Casey. You got that? Okay,
I'm
Kelly will be up.
Oh,
I've got 7 years in jail for doxing Kelly. Okay, circumstance investigator is required by the ProCare Group. If you don't know what a circumstance investigator is, go over to episode number 97 of Investigations Unity and you can find out all about it, where we explained all about terminology, phrases and in stuff for private investigators and what circumstance investigators are. A principal coordinator and investigator is required down in Tassie. Rob Morton sent us this investigation vacancy last week, and they're offering up to $131,000 plus 11.5% superannuation to be the statewide complaints manager oversight in the health office. You're going to be very busy with that job, so that's great. They're compensating for it. Insurance investigator is wanted by the RACQ in Brisbane. So that's an internal role with RACQ in Brisbane, so no licence is actually required. Over the coming months, I'm in Victoria. I'm booked out for my next one in Melbourne and my next one in Geelong, but over the coming months, I'm in Victoria conducting record of recognition of prior learning interviews for the new business licence for investigators in Victoria. So I'm down there regularly between now and May next year, including a very long stint in April. So keep that in mind if you're after your security business licence to remain a private investigator, just like you have to do in New South Wales with the master licence. We have to have a recognition of prior learning meeting. Surveillance operative is wanted by the ProCare Group in Canberra. So in Canberra, our capital city, where you can be an investigator, no licence is actually required to be a private investigator in Canberra. The problem with it is if your subject goes outside the border, then you have to be licensed. So you cannot be an investigator and not be licensed in Canberra because of the border issues and our separation of powers and our state licensing system. A licensed general insurance investigator in Melbourne, so it's for burglary, motor vehicle theft, that sort of thing, is wanted by Quantum Corp. If you don't know what you're going to do in general insurance investigations, once again, Investigation Uni, we explained all of that today in relation to the terminology and why you have to be a member of an industry association such as ours, the Academy of Investigation, Risk and Loss Adjusting Professionals. So it's got your name on it, that certificate. So when you graduate from the Australian Security Academy, you're a member of that industry association. It's free. No one's going to ask you for $200 a year to show you irrelevant police presentations in relation to criminal investigations, which you'll never do. So basically, for general insurance investigations, for Allianz, Suncorp, Metway and QBE, you have to be a member of an industry association. So Quantum Corp are looking for investigators in Victoria for general insurance, but somewhere they were. Well, I've lost them, but Clarity Investigations are looking in New South Wales for investigators for factual investigation there. So you're going to be going out, interviewing people, taking statements and conducting record of interview. Clarity have employed 3 Australian Security Academy graduates this week in full-time positions. So great work at Clarity, a great team down at Clarity, big supporters of the Australian Security Academy. Fraud assessor is wanted by WorkCover Queensland. So they would prefer that you had a certificate for in government investigation. Otherwise, they really won't talk to you. So you've got to have qualifications, people, today. You must have what they ask you for as far as qualifications, in association memberships, that sort of thing. It's a different world now, all right?
We would love it too, but it's just not possible because we're all governed by different acts. State to state, we come under different acts and legislation. So even when it comes to the Privacy Act, it's not possible, unfortunately.
Yeah, I speak at events for overseas companies want to buy security companies in Australia, and they all do. They want to buy security companies in Australia because Australia has the only system where the government funds the airport security, the transport security, the defence-based security, the security of our borders. It's all funded by the government for security companies to do that, who are owned by China or owned by India. And they just rake in millions, just like your power company's owned by China or somewhere else. They rake in millions from it. And the thing that they dislike the most and stops them taking over the investigation industry, the only thing that stops them taking over the investigation industry is state-based licensing. They can't get their head around it because they're used to central control. And they just do not get it. They've got it for security because the figures, it's an $8 billion industry now. And $4 billion of that's gifted to them in government funding. And they buy the security company in order to get that, plus information that's available to them unsecurely as well. But I didn't say that. So anyway, that's why you don't have it, because we have a separations of powers by state. In Australia, it's just our system. So coming back to my job vacancies, I did Clarity. Fraud assessor for WorkCover Queensland, certificate for government investigation. If you don't know what fraud is, and you don't know the definition of fraud, once again, we covered all that terminology today over in Investigations Uni, episode 98. So you can see all about that over there. If you're an Australian Security Academy student and you're not being invited to that, get in touch with me and I'll make sure you go on our email list. That's really important. But fraud investigations, they're really dominating the news and the media at the moment. It's a large percentage of Casey's inquiries and work as well as mine. So don't ever neglect it. Just because it's a fraud investigation, you don't have to be an accountant to do a fraud investigation. That's really important. Now, accountants do the financial side of fraud investigations. They do. But you do not have to be one to be a fraud investigator. Keep that in mind. People, with all of that, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed our program today. I hope, Kelly, that your question was answered, and then I won't mention your name at all again in the future. Please ask questions. I failed today to ask a question that came up in Investigations Uni, and I can't get it. We're looking for what E/B means in a photographic log, and I'm going to have to tell you next week because the question came up today and we have not been able to find a person who knows yet. I'm going to have to find out which investigation agency it was and ask them and tell you the answer to what E-B means in a numbered photographic log. I'm sure there's someone watching that knows that. I don't. You have been watching episode 287. We're rocking it up to our 300th episode and looking forward to that. It's been a very busy 5 years. Thanks for watching, people. See you next time. Mike and Casey saying goodbye in our usual way from the Australian Security Academy. Have a great investigation week, investigators. So what do they say about sock
Whatever it is that lets Crowley turn me into his own personal sock puppet.
No, really.
Posing and grinning like a goddamn sock puppet.
You better add her middle name.
Oh, yeah, well, that's important.
We have an excess of manliness breaking out in the comms center.
No, that's communications. That wasn't sock
Let's
puppet.
go pre-text him.
Mimi is a fake Facebook profile.
Well, what about Mr. Black
Oh,
profile?
we created a fake profile for a really cool guy named Derek McBlack.
Derek McBlack. What a great fake profile. No one's asking about the names. They've got the names. Everybody's got the names, the pretext names. They just haven't got the cool photos that you should be using, like my suggestions were this one. You see, he's got that blue glasses look that's very, very important, and the scholarly look with those glasses. Even this one looks like a dork too. So you can be a James Bond and a dork. Oh, I'm just kidding myself. See you next week, people.